Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to work on beginner watercolors. What colors are you using? Now a lot of you may have thought about dabbling or have dabbled in watercolors. You may not remember what you already have at home, and maybe you've got a few of these trays that don't have your colors labeled inside or anything along those lines. Or just tons and tons of different tubes all over the place, and they might have some paint on them where you can no longer tell what the colors are. And if you are new, then this will help you find out what you're looking at in the stores, especially if you're buying the individual tubes. If you do end up getting some of the cheaper tins, definitely don't go with Crayola. But if you get some of the cheaper ones to start off with, I highly recommend them. I love my little cheap set to death. It's the one that I always use. But unfortunately, even though I love to use this, my cheap little set does not tell me what these different colors are. So I had to go and research it to remind myself what ones are what, and also looking at several other different tubes I have around the house. And the big thing that we are going to do in this video is making ourselves a color chart. Now, if you remember in some of my past videos, I have mentioned that these every company that makes a tube of paint, they have a patent on how that particular color is made. So if you have Grumbacher, their reds are not the exact same. Their cadmium red is not the exact same as Winsor and Newton, and that'll be the same rule for watercolors, for acrylics, for oils. It won't matter. So having a color chart, you can also do a much smaller one than what I've shown you. I just want to make sure that you can read what I'm doing, and I do apologize, my handwriting's horrible. That's what college does to you. You have to write so fast to keep up with what the instructor's saying. Forget how pretty it looks. So what I've already done, I've made little individual squares, and I'm going to go into my palette, and this is going to be interesting with the camera. I've always worked at an angle. Just go in with our palette, and when you are making your own color testing sheet, you want to start from darkest, which will be pretty much wet to dry. The wet is the brush or the paint, and then the dry is the paper itself. This is 400-pound pressed paper, and you are going to want to make it to where you're just bringing your colors down, and this is great practice for washes and different things like that. And you're just going to want it to eventually fade down into a lighter form of what the color is. So you're going to want the pure color at the top, and then you're going to want the washed out near the bottom. And the reason for this is your colors, such as your burnt umbers, your yellow ochres, they look so different as you are going down through your palette. That, ooh, all that black. They just become so different from being just the pure color to fading in, or fading into, whoop, sorry about that, lighter version. I hope you enjoyed your trip there. Alright, so there's the black. Now this is a very intriguing color. I think this is my brand's version of a burnt umber. But according to the package on the website, it's Vandekeen brown? I've never really heard anybody pronounce it, so I have no idea how to actually say it myself. So we'll just put that on there straight. And washing down. There we go. Okay. I'm just scrubbing some of this down here a little lighter. There we go. So there is what I do believe is supposed to be this brand's version of burnt umber. I could be very wrong on that, but I've never seen any other brand come with this particular name. So, but it does look a lot like burnt umber. If I go into my toolkit of variety here we go. Squeezy tube of burnt umber. I might have to squeeze up some water into these guys here. That's a wonderful thing about watercolors. You never have to worry about your paint. Well, I mean, you have to worry about your paint drying out, but it is no big deal to rehydrate it a little bit. So if I just make a streak of this different brand right there beside it, it really looks very, very similar. It's not the exact same. Yeah, I'm going to call that burnt umber. Even though that's not the real name for it, according to the company, but that's so close. The wonderful thing about having a kit full of these things, well, not a kit, but a tote full of different tubes. All right, now we are going to move on to burnt ceria. Get nice hydrate there. All right, very red looking guy here. Oh, lovely, lovely. Got like the perfect autumn colors going on, my favorite time of the year. Also like the perfect shade for red hair. You don't even have to mix anything. It just comes out of the tube. Perfect. All right. And the next color, now I did end up putting these on my board wrong here when I was trying to figure out what colors were what. Here is Carmine. Because even though I went on the website, even on the website it didn't label each individual cake itself. It just, on the website, it shows this, and then there's a little blurb on the side saying, oh, comes with these colors. And it's like, oh, you're so helpful. Well, since I got to make a new color chart because my house gremlin has took off with mine, I might as well make a video. All right. And now for Vermilion. Now, in my cake pan, if you look, if you rewind the video feed and look at it, you'll see my Vermilion's like really dark and dingy because I've been playing with it a little bit. But it is actually bright but orange. Oh my god. But it goes on so nice. It's just bright and vivid and beautiful. Like we all are. There we go. All right, next color is Prussian. Or what I believe to be Prussian. Yeah. It's nice midnight, starry night blue. So lovely. And now for probably a more common one, if you've used other paints other than watercolors here, ultramarine. always tends to be your more ocean colors. Get a little darker up in the top. Yeah. Lovely. Now for hooker green. Again, probably a more common name for people who have played with other varieties of paint. Let me get that darker here. And then leaf green. There's really not going to be too much darkening this guy up. The lighter colors and watercolors, they just never come out too... When I say intense, I don't necessarily mean that they're not a vivid color. It's just that they just don't come out so straight. They're always a little bit more on the watery side of appearance-wise. More transparent, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. About as dark as that guy's going to ever want to get. Yeah. And gamboge. Again, that's another one nobody's ever taught me how to say. But pretty much your traditional yellow. Sunny yellow. Yay! And there again, as a light color, it's the amount of transparency in your lighter colors it's just not going to be as steep as it will be with your darker colors. And now for the yellow ochre. There we go. And you do see I have a slot here for white. Well, I'm all out of white. It's 100 million other colors. But white in watercolor, it does not hold the same significance as white for other medium acrylics, oils, because watercolor is transparent. If you're going to have actual white on your picture, it is going to be the paper background. If you're using white watercolor paper, there are a few colors in like off-white and such. You really, if you're wanting to get like the white shine in somebody's eyes, you're not going to be going towards a white watercolor to put that guy in there. You're going to be getting like some gouache or acrylic white to just put that little dab in there. Really all that white does, aside from pretty much nothing, like it'll make help you get more lavender colors when you're mixing. Maybe get a paler yellow that maybe it just doesn't feel as transparenty as this. Woo, what did I do? I made a mess up. Woo. Clean that guy out. This is a technique called scrubbing. Scrub, scrub, scrub. Moving all that pigment out that I don't want in there. There we go. So really, white is, it's blank because this paper, that's your white. That's that is what it is. So there's really no point in doing that. I can give you an example of what he does. Well, you can mix red and blue together and get a purple. Let's say you're wanting something a little bit more lavender in color. Mix a little white in there, and you get something just a smidgen lighter from what you might have been a little less intense than what you would mix straight, which would be this guy. So really that's where the value of the white watercolor is. But you can do the same thing with acrylic. The only thing is if you do mix acrylics with your watercolors, acrylics, once you get them wet, once they are dry, if you get them wet, they're not going to move. They are done. When acrylics are dry, they're done. Now, if you're like there are quite a lot of watercolor artists out there. They use so much water. They drown their paper in water. Then I probably wouldn't worry too terribly much about your acrylic drying, because it's got to be in a dry environment in order to dry. I myself do a lot of wet to dry. That's my favorite way of painting. That's just how I do. My acrylics will dry a whole lot faster in that case. It's just something to keep in mind. A lot of people use gouache instead. Don't ask me how to spell it. I'm dyslexic. It ain't going to work. But if you go into any actual art store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, I do think Joann Fabrics actually sells paints now. Now, don't quote me on that. And if this is somebody watching this, who knows, 10, 15 years from now, that could all very much change. But a lot of your craft stores that sell paint, your specialty places, what have you, you just say the word gouache, and they know what you're talking about. Alright, now, a lot of your kits, especially your tin kits that come like this, there is another blue that they just don't come with. And there are kits out there where you can buy all these different tubes, and there's 100 million different tubes in this one little package. And you might end up running into Cerulean Blue. Now this is the blue you use for all your tropical pictures, your tropical waters, and get all those beautiful, beautiful waves going. It is just the most gorgeous blue you ever saw, and especially when you start mixing it with greens, especially this leaf green here, it will just take over your world. You'll feel like you're on the beach. And it makes it for a pretty good sky too. But I just know it the best. Well, my first introduction to that particular shade of blue was doing wave paintings. And it's like, oh my god, this is so vivid and beautiful and perfect. So there's that guy. Now, out of all of these colors here, aside from this little mess I made here, your burnt umber, burnt Syrian, yellow ochre, and anybody else here? Anybody else? Alright. So, these guys, 3 here, these guys are very, very important to your color palettes. They help bring down the vividness of whatever it is that you're doing. If you feel it, like your colors are just turning out too cartoony, they just don't feel quite right, that's where you start adding these guys in to bring it down to earth, to add an earthiness to it. Now, most people would think, oh, well, if I don't want it as vivid, I'll add black. You don't always want to do that. That's not always the answer. Black is very, very rarely in the painting world ever the answer. For instance, if you think about or look at a photo of somebody in a white t-shirt with a button-down t-shirt, and you look at the shading on that shirt, a lot of times the quick answer may be black if you want to do the shading, but a lot of artists, and especially if you really, really look, really try to see that picture, you'll find that maybe actually there's a touch of blue going on in the darker areas of that white shirt. So definitely something to keep in mind. Black is not always the answer. I'm not saying the blue is always the answer, but a good chunk of the time it is, especially a nice cool blue. But these guys are really what you want to go towards whenever you're really wanting to earthy up whatever it is that you're painting. Everybody else is extremely crucially important. If you prefer this guy for beautiful skies, that's fine. I do believe ultramarine blue, a little dot there, is probably a more realistic method of going, and I just love this guy for painting oceans. Oh, it's so fun. And you can see my other messes I got going on down here, trying to figure out, is this yellow ochre, or is this supposed to be gambage? Oh well. Yay, messes. Making messes is fun. Now, to show you something else that a lot of beginners don't really know, and before you go to try to make a purple and you mess up your picture, I'm going to show you what happens with all these different blues, and especially if you're working in acrylics and oils, what reds you use with what blues is insanely important. So, let me see here. I'll get some of my Carmine. I'm going to put him in this top corner here. He's going to eat that whole area. And then, yeah, I got ultramarine listed there. Put him here. And then we mix these two guys together. That red will stain. I think I need a little extra here. All right. Now that's the kind of purple that those two make. Now there's really not... I guess you could say the Vermilion is a red, but I don't know. It just feels very much more on the orangey side to me. So we will then instead do Carmine. A lot deeper there. All right. And our Prussian. Okay, so as you can see, we do get some pretty different looking purples here. One, the Prussian is such a dark color that it is going to just make this quite a bit darker. And you'll see differences, a great deal more differences with the acrylics, your cadmium and ultramarine blues and such. But I always feel like this is a lot more of a wine purple versus this guy, unless you already have a red base, like this, what I ended up putting down first that stained the paper. This always ends up being a very cool kind of color, even if I do add a little bit. I don't want to do it straight, I want it to be at least even, give it a fair fight. It seems like I always end up tweaking ultramarine and carmine and just endlessly tweaking. Never ever is happy. I'm never happy with it. My camera just decided not to behave anymore, so I had to find out why it was misbehaving. So, alright, where we last left off, I was playing around with ultramarine blue and carmine red and Prussian blue carmine. Now, I made these two look very, very much the same, but it took way more carmine in order to get the ultra blue to get to this nice wine color like the Prussian and carmine. This is pretty 50-50. This is more like 75-25. 75 the red and 25 the ultra blue. So there are differences between the two, or using blue and the red together. Just kind of pay attention to which one you're using. Definitely have a test piece of paper around to make sure that you are using the ones that you intend to use. Now, you might notice over here I have two more little black lines. So this black that I have here, this is ivory. And it's a little bit, if you're comparing it to the other two, it is a lot colder. In the fact that it just feels really dead. The other two are slightly warmer. Now, there might be some browns, there might be some burnt umber in them, just a touch. Again, these two are also from completely different brand from this one. So there again, that shows you that black is not just black, for one, and for two, that the colors are all different between the brands. Now, this is considered lamp black, this is ivory black, and the lamp black, I kind of think of it like lamp oil. It's a little bit warmer, it's a little bit earthier than the ivory black. And this is a gouache. I didn't realize I had any gouache, but all I got is black. And this guy, once he is wet, or once he's dried out, he will move around, and once you re-wet him, and you can reposition him and such. So there is a color chart. A lot of watercolor artists do this, and especially if they have multiple brands, they'll have one brand going across the top, and then they'll have the next brand going underneath, and like line up all the yellow ochres so that way they can see how it differs between each brand, just for their own reference more than anything. And as just a reminder, I mean, this video is a little bit long, not as long as some of them have made so far. White really just kind of changes the intensity of your colors more than anything. It still goes down pretty clear. It's not going to really affect anything too terribly much, other than when it gets mixed in with your other colors. That's when it actually starts changing things. Putting it down on paper, that's just a waste. You can also use gouache white and acrylic white if you're specifically trying to get a look or something that is going to lay on top of what you've already painted. For instance, again, like putting the shine in somebody's eye. If you're painting an animal, putting the shine maybe in their coat where the sun's hitting. Just different things like that. Been playing with that black, you can tell. And also down here are three yellow ochres, all quite different from each other in color. And this is where I tried to play with the Vermilion and the two different blues. Yeah, it's orange. It doesn't want to behave like a red whatsoever, so then no matter what they say, that's orange. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful in getting you on the road to getting started. Please like and subscribe. It helps me out, and it helps me know what you want to see in future videos. And also to definitely make sure that I know what you want to see and what you want help with, make comments down below. Let me know what you want to work on. If you want to work on water effects, anything along those lines, feathers, you want to make hair look more realistic, want to make fur look more realistic, pebbles, and you want to paint a pepper, just let me know. Actually, this might not be a half bad thing to try out. This is a ghost chili, actually. I grew these to keep the squirrels away from my crocuses, and so far it's worked. Might have to grow a few more of those next year. So please like, subscribe. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if it was helpful. And I hope to see you guys all in the next video. And thanks for hanging out. Bye.